Weber's thesis in his study of the Protestant ethic and the spirit of capitalism. According to Weber, the development of capitalism was greatly facilitated by a particular strain of Protestant thought. That thought shaped the personalities of the entrepreneurs whose activities were responsible for the flowering of capitalism. We may see this by first understanding what is meant by the spirit of capitalism. That attitude which seeks profit rationally and systematically in a way that is exemplified in the writings of Benjamin Franklin. A penny saved is a penny earned. Waste not, want not, etc. Weber pointed to Christian asceticism as the source of the rational, systematic approach that impelled capitalism. A basic element of modern capitalism, rational conduct on the basis of the idea of the calling, was begotten by Christian asceticism. For in Christian asceticism, the individual is driven by a concern for his or her own spiritual well-being, and can assure himself or herself of a state of grace through ascetic action. Faith was a gift of God, but one was able to prove that one possessed that gift through concrete results, namely, Christian conduct that served to increase the glory of God. Works never enable one to gain salvation, but they are indispensable for demonstrating one's possession of that salvation. The Christian ascetics, therefore, systematically and rationally ordered their moral life. They agreed that the waste of time was a deadly sin. They avoided any kind of spontaneous enjoyment of self-indulgence. They saw the achievement of wealth as the result of their labor and their labor as the consequence of their calling from God. Success was the sign of God's blessing. When the limitation of consumption is combined with this release of acquisitive activity, the inevitable practical result is obvious: accumulation of capital through ascetic compulsion to save. In sum, Christian asceticism produced precisely those character traits that were conducive to the development of capitalism. Economic growth proceeded as a consequence of the pursuit of assurance of salvation. People were motivated to behave in particular ways that happened to be the ways needed for the growth of capitalist economy. Given the kind of Protestant thought described above, will people invariably behave in a way that leads to economic development? The answer must be no, because we know of instances where Calvinism did not result in the kind of economic behavior that characterized the Europeans studied by Weber. In his analysis of Afrikaner Calvinism in South Africa, Randall Stokes has shown the social context in which religion operates is of critical importance. Although the Afrikaner Calvinism was virtually identical to the 18th century European Calvinism, the effects of religion in South Africa were the opposite of those in Europe. Afrikaner Calvinism was a conservative rather than an innovative economic force. Stokes explains this in terms of the particular social context in South Africa. For one thing, the Afrikaners came to regard themselves as a kind of chosen people because of their self-identification with the ancient Israelites and their repeated confrontations with the native black population. This led them to regard themselves as collectively, rather than individually, elect and as comprising a sacred society. In a sacred society, traditional ways are upheld with passion and innovations are always suspect. Consequently, the Afrikaners did not exploit new economic opportunities or accept more modern techniques. Finally, because they regarded themselves as collectively elect, the Afrikaners did not suffer the anxiety about salvation that plagued the Europeans and drove them to achieve success as a mark of their salvation. At this point, the question of religious ideology and social change may appear confusing. We have seen that a particular religion can impede some kinds of change and impel others. How can these divergent effects of religious ideologies be explained? In his examination of the relationship between religious orientation and civil rights militancy, Gary Marks found the same disparity and suggested an answer for it. He notes that the net effect of religion was to inhibit change by minimizing protest attitudes. At the same time, he found many religious people to be militant. Marx suggests that this can be understood in terms of the multiplicity of themes of any religious perspective, some of which are in tension and if not contradiction. One strand of Christianity is the afterlife and acceptance of one's lot in life. But another strand is the realization of religious values in this life. In addition to the multiple strands of thought in all religions, 3 other reasons have been suggested as to why religion facilitates or impedes change. One is that some directions of change are congruent with the existing religious ideology. 2, a second reason is that religion changes over time. The relationship between religious ideology and a particular kind of change may be dialectical. Change proceeds out of the context of ongoing resolution of the contradictions between religious ideology and social reality. 3. Finally, there is the reason articulated by Stokes in his study of Afrikaner Calvinism. The effects of religious beliefs will vary depending upon the social context. People construct their behavior on the basis of the interaction between their beliefs and their social situation. Consequently, religious beliefs that facilitate innovative behavior in one situation will facilitate traditional, conservative behavior in another situation.